Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to The Sanctuary. I'm your host, Professor C. We're going to do a little bit more A&P today. Specifically, I'm going to take us through our 7th Test Yourself, where I'll go over some ABCD type questions, covering all of the bones histology and all of the bones in the skeleton. So, let's check it out. Okay, let's do our 7th Test Yourself over the bones. I got about 20 questions, ABCD style. Let's see what we've learned. Number 1 here, which two bones form the antebrachium? Okay, the antebrachium is the forearm. So we're looking for the radius and the ulna. So let's find it. Humerus and scapula. Now that makes up the bony shoulder. Sort of. Doesn't really make up anything. Clavicle and scapula. That is the pectoral girdle. So not quite the forearm. Radius and ulna, that is what we're looking for. That should be the correct answer. And then ulna and humerus, not really a pair. Radius and ulna is our answer. Which statement is true concerning the orbits? Okay, the orbits again are where the eyeballs fit in, the bony part of the skull that makes up where the eyes fit in. So they're made of cartilage. Well, no, they are not. They are made of bone. They are made of facial and cranial bones. That is true. I mean, you got some frontal bone there, you got some ethmoid, you got some sphenoid, you got some maxilla. So that is true. They are made of facial only. No, that's not true. They got some cranial bones, and they're made of fused vertebrae. Well, that's a silly answer. Vertebrae have nothing to do with the orbit, so B should be our choice, and it is. Which term represents an exaggerated lumbar curvature? Okay, the vertebrae, the vertebral column, have the natural curves, but what if it's exaggerated in the lumbar area? Well, that's the lordosis. Lumbar and lordosis both start with L. So kyphosis is an exaggerated thoracic curve. Lordosis is our answer. Scoliosis is an exaggerated lateral or mediolateral curve. And spina bifida, we didn't even talk about. It has nothing to do with exaggerated curvature. So B should be our answer. Well done. The pituitary gland is protected by since we're talking about bones, we know that in the sphenoid bone, there's a special little saddle where the pituitary gland sits, which is called the sella turcica. So let's find that. Sphenoid sinus. No, that's a close answer. It's not in the sinus. Remember, sinuses are supposed to be air-filled pockets within bone to lighten the skull, but the pituitary gland is not found in a sinus. The foramen magnum is where the brainstem / spinal cord erupts from the skull, so that is not it. Sella turcica is what we're looking for, the saddle, Turkish saddle. And the cribriform plate of the ethmoid bone. Nope, that's where we find olfactory structures, but not pituitary gland. So C is our answer. We did it. Which bone forms the largest portion of the os coxae? Okay, os coxae refers to the coxal bones or the hip bones. So we have 3 bones that are fused together to create the hip. That would be the ilium, the ischium, and the pubis bone. And the largest one is the ilium. Now, you could think sacrum also, but sacrum's not officially part of the os coxae, even though it does create the bony pelvis. So sacrum is a bogus answer because it's not part of the os coxae. Ischium is the butt bone, and it is not the largest portion. Pubis is the front part. It's kind of arguably the narrowest part. So ilium, the big flared ear-like portion, is our answer. Paranasal sinuses are not found in which bone? Okay, let's play the not game now. Ethmoid. No, there is an ethmoid sinus. There is a maxillary sinus. There is a frontal sinus. So I hope D is it. Mandible. No, there is no mandibular sinus. So we are correct. Wonderful. What suture connects the 2 parietal bones? Okay, well that would be kind of straight in line with the body, like I shot you with an arrow, and the way the arrow would go right over your head. And we know that kind of a cut from way, way, way back in the early lectures is called a sagittal cut. So we're looking for the sagittal suture. Okay, lambdoid is in the back of the head by the occipital temporal bones. That's not it. The sagittal suture should be our answer. The metopic suture is in the front, right above the nasal bones. It seals completely when you're an adult, so that is not it. And the squamous suture is in between the parietal bones and the temporal bone, but not between the two parietals. So our answer is sagittal. Wonderful. The bony carpus consists of, carpus refers to the wrist, and the true bony carpus has 8 bones, and they are in almost 2 rows of 4, even though they're offset just a little bit. So we're looking for something about 8 bones, 2 rows, something like that. 5 bones in a single row. Nope. 7 bones in a single row. Nope. 7 bones in 2 rows. We're getting closer. There it is. 8 bones in 2 rows. That's the correct answer. The middle nasal conchae are part of which bone? Okay, this one's a little tricky. Remember, the superior and middle nasal conchae are part of the ethmoid bone, and the inferior nasal conchae are its own bone, not part of any other bone technically. So sphenoid, nope. Ethmoid, there we go. That's what we're looking for. Maxilla, nope. And nasal. So ethmoid's our best and the only answer, really. And we got it right. Which of the following bones does not bear weight in a human body? Okay, let's just eliminate. So the femur definitely bears weight. The tibia definitely bears weight. Its neighbor, though, the fibula, the little skinny one, it does not actually bear weight in a human body. And the talus, being one of the tarsal bones, one of the ankle bones, if you will, does bear weight. So the answer is fibula. Moving on. How do ribs paired, that's kind of a typo there, how do rib pairs 11 and 12 differ from the other pairs? Well, 11 and 12 are the last 2 pairs, and they're called the floating ribs, not because they're magically floating in the body, but they don't have an anterior attachment to the sternum. So usually you're looking for that when you're asked about pairs 11 and 12, is they have no anterior sternal attachment. Let's see. They have no posterior attachment to vertebrae. Oh, they do have that. All 12 have that. They have no anterior attachment to the sternum. That's almost word for word what I said. B is definitely looking really good. They are made entirely of cartilage. No, that is not true. They have no cartilage associated with them like the other ones do. They are not present in females. No, that's ridiculous. Men and women have the same number and types of ribs. So B is our answer. And let's move on. Which portion of the vertebral column bears the most weight? Well, I'm guessing that will be the one that's the lowest, right? The most inferior, which would be the lumbar area. It makes sense because they have the biggest, thickest bodies of all of the vertebrae. So cervical and the neck, no. Thoracic getting more pressure. Lumbar would have the most. And sacral doesn't because we distribute that weight into the femurs, so it doesn't bear a lot of the weight at all, really. It pushes that into the pelvis and into the femur. So lumbar vertebrae is the answer. Which bone is not axial is what it's asking here. Remember, there's 2 types of skeletons, the axial and the appendicular. Axial is anything in the skull, the vertebral column, ribs, or sternum. So let's look for the one that's not found in those things. Okay, frontal's in the skull, so that's axial. Femur's in the leg. That's definitely appendicular, and I think we found our answer already. Maxilla, of course, is in the skull. And the sacrum is tricky because it could be one of those either-ors, but it's technically part of the vertebral column. They are vertebrae, and so that's axial. So the answer is femur. How do the thoracic vertebrae differ from the other types of vertebrae? Let's see what they have here for choices. Thoracic vertebrae have facets for ribs. Well, that is true. And that definitely is one way they differ, so that might be the answer right there. But let's see what else they've got. Thoracic vertebrae have bifid spinous processes. No, you only find those in the cervical vertebrae, and it's only some of them. Thoracic vertebrae have transverse foramina. No, again, that's only found in cervical vertebrae. And thoracic vertebrae have no lamina or pedicle. They have both a lamina and a pedicle, a very easily spottable lamina and pedicle. So A is our answer. Which part of the fibula articulates with the talus? Okay, remember both the lower leg bones, the tibia and the fibula, both articulate. The talus And the tibia kind of sits right on top of it, but the fibula just barely touches the lateral malleolus to it. So we're looking for lateral malleolus here. The greater tubercle, no, that's a humerus term, and other things perhaps. Medial malleolus is tibial, so that's not the answer. And the lateral malleolus is the answer we're looking for. That should be it. And then D says fibula does not articulate with the talus. So yes, it does, but not very much. But it does at the, well, at the lateral malleolus. Which vertebrae does not have a body? Well, that would be the very first one that's just pretty much a ring of bone. So we can call that guy C1, cervical 1, or we can refer to him as Atlas as it holds up the skull. So T12 is definitely not it. The Atlas, there it is. That's definitely, we're looking for that to be the winner. C2 is the one under it, the axis. That's not it. It has a teeny little body. And that's another name for C2. So repeat answer. B is our choice. Which of the following bones has a, okay, we got a list of things. Let's think real quick. Has a diaphysis and 2 epiphyses. Well, that's any of the long bones. So that could be a humerus, radius, ulna, femur, tib, fib. Let's keep going. And articulates with the glenoid cavity. Well, now we know it immediately. The glenoid cavity is part of the scapula, so the bone that articulates with that is the humerus. And I'm just looking for it. There it is, B. And none of these others are correct. Each of the following structures are part of ethmoid bone except, so we're looking for the one that's not part of the bone. Cristogali is that little shark fin sticking up, so that is part of the ethmoid. Olfactory foramina are also part of the ethmoid, poking through the cribriform plate. Perpendicular plate is of the ethmoid. It forms the top portion of the nasal septum. So all 3 of those are ethmoid structures. I hope number 4 is not. And it is not. The inferior nasal conchae are a bone of their own, and that is the choice. The soft spots on newborns' skulls are called, well, again, the trick is when they cough or something, they actually poke out of the head a little bit like a fountain. So they're called little fountains, but not in English, of course. So fontanelles is the word we're looking for, an F word. Oh, foramina is an F word, but it means hole, so that's not it. Fissures, another F word, is a big crack, so that's not a soft spot. Fontanelles is our answer, the little fountains. And fossa, they're all F words, but we chose the correct one, I hope here. We did. Hey, you made it through another test yourself. How'd you do? Hope you liked that video. If you did, thanks for watching it, of course, and check out some more if you want to learn more about A&P. See you for the next one. Bye-bye.